Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. So I will advise you that tonight's meeting is a virtual one and may be recorded, and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. Can I ask that all those in attendance to mute their microphone, to announce their name before speaking, and remind members that the use of the instant messaging facility is for advising if you wish to speak or draw attention to an urgent matter. That's not to discuss or debate items or hold a conversation or put forward a point of view. The IAM is strictly not for use by members of the public, and any member of the public that uses the IAM inappropriately may be removed from the meeting. For the benefit of any of the public who've dialed in by phone, the chat facility is just to facilitate me as chairperson and Democratic Services so that we can see which members wish to speak and have indicated that they wish to speak. So welcome everyone this evening. So that is members of the public as well as councillors from both Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council. I will advise you that the following officers are in attendance: the Seafront and Engineer Manager Mike Knowles, Swale District Manager for KCC Alan Blackburn, Community and Engagement Team Leader East, that's Jenny Watson, Planning Advice Principal Engineer Road Safety is Kelly Garrett, Director of Neighbourhoods and Regeneration Emma Wiggins, and Democratic Services Kelly Mackenzie and also Billy Attaway. Is there anyone else in attendance that wishes to declare from the officer side? No, okay.
Oh, yes, there is. It's Jamie Watson from KCC.
Oh, hello, Jamie. Sorry.
Hello, no problem.
Left you off my list. Apologies. And I did see Lynn's here in attendance, Lynn Newton as well from Swale.
Yes, thank you, Monique. I've just joined to listen to one of the items. Thank you.
No problem. Where are we now? So is there any apologies for absence or any substitutes tonight?
Thank you. Apologies from Kent County Councillor John Wright and Calc member Councillor Peter MacDonald. Thank you.
And Peter. Okay. Right. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest anyone wishes to make on any of the agenda items?
Yes, Chairman. It's Councillor Simmons here.
Yep. Yes.
Agenda item 5, Faversham pedestrianisation. I'm involved with the running of Faversham Market, so I have an interest to declare.
Okay, thank you. Do you know what sort of interest you're declaring there? Just to for clarification.
Non-pecuniary, I think, as it's going out for consultation.
Okay. Anyone else wish to make any declarations? Can't see any hands up. Okay. Right, item 4 is the public session. Oh, no, sorry, before we go on to that, let's do minutes of the last meeting held on the 20th of June. That's minute numbers 108 to 123. Are they a correct record? Does everyone agree?
Agreed.
Agree?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Anyone against or not agreeing? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 4, public session. So this is a part 1, reports for recommend. So we don't have any registered speakers for this section. So we will go on to the first section in the agenda is part 1, reports for recommendation to Swale Borough Council's Policy and Resources Committee. Okay, let's go to, this is item 5, Faversham pedestrianisation. Can I ask the officer to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening or good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Emma Wiggins and I'm the Director of Regeneration and Neighbourhoods at Swale Borough Council. Apologies from Joanne Johnson, who should be presenting the report. She is unwell. She's still unwell today, so you have me. Can I draw the board's meeting to the information in the pack and the report that you have? I will not go through it in detail, but want to focus on the recommendations within the report. The first is to proceed with the implementation of the Faversham Town Centre road closures. And the second recommendation is to proceed with the preparation of the draft traffic order and formal consultation on that order. I would say that with regards to the town centre road closures, quite a bit of work has been done in the informal stage, as you will see in the background, and sort of informal consultation has taken place as part of that process. We have been working with Project Centre, and Jonathan East is here with me this evening to take any technical questions, but I want to focus you on the recommendations 4.1, 4.2 and the dates with which the consultation period, if agreed, would run to, which is 16th of January to the 22nd of February, which looks at more formal consultation on the proposals to close Market Street and Court Street, Marketplace and Middle Row, East Street and Preston Street to 10 till 4 with the following exemptions, which is permit holders and blue badge holders. I will stop there and open it up for questions. Thank you, Chair. Is the chair here? Monique, Councillor Bonney, can you hear us?
Oh gosh, sorry, I'm talking to myself. That's not helpful. Okay, I'll take councillors in order as they put their hands up. So I've got Councillor Alistair Gould, followed by Eddie Thomas, and Councillor David Simmons.
Just one point to try to clarify. It says in the report there's going to be the monitored by APNR, and I was just wondering, would blue badge holders have to register for this scheme to be picked up on the APNR? Because I wasn't aware that APNR generally would pick up all blue badge holders. So would anyone coming in to the town centre with a blue badge have to have already registered before they came in?
Okay, I'll hand that one over to the officers or to the consultant who might want to answer that one.
Yeah, hi there. It's John East here from Project Centre. So with the cameras, yes, it would have to be a pre-registration, or the alternative would be the camera would pick up the license plate and the fine would be sort of processed, and then there would have to be an appeal on that if the blue badge holder hadn't pre-registered.
Chair, may I come back on that one?
Of course, yeah.
Just to say that in that case, could we make sure that the signage is very explicit to that effect? As certainly at the surgery in town, we've had a lot of problems with people who've assumed that a blue badge exemption applies to anywhere where there's a disabled sign, and not that they actually have to register their exemption at the time, and therefore, I think you'll catch a lot of people if it just says blue badge holders only, without it making it very explicit that a exemption does apply.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we note that, and I think some of the comments that may come up in that follow this are things that will be brought out, and that's the process of having a formal consultation. That's why it's a really important part is a formal consultation to flush out these sorts of issues. Thank you. Councillor Eddie Thomas.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions. Should I do them one by one or read them out together?
Well, fire them away, all three, and we'll see how we get on.
Okay. I mean, generally, I support these proposals, but there are a few questions. First one, what procedures and specifically signage will be put in place to communicate to all that it's now a pedestrian priority area? And that's the biggie really for me. How will it be communicated? It is now pedestrian priority, because even with the gates closed, vehicles, or even now when it's been a pedestrian area, vehicles drive through but don't seem to realise they've still got to give way to pedestrians. The second question is, how will the interim period be managed and controlled between the new traffic regulation order and signage being put in place and the AMP cameras being commissioned? Because as I understand it, they won't be there straight away. That's 2 of the 6 questions. Did you want me to carry on?
Well, yeah, we'll take a pause there, and then perhaps either Emma or John might like to pick up those first 2, and we'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of signage, so as part of the proposals sort of included on the drawings in the scheme, we sort of having new pedestrian and cycle zone signage at the gateway of the zone to kind of inform drivers that they are then entering the pedestrian and cycle zone. So I mean, and that's sort of standard traffic signs, manual signage to highlight that fact. And then in terms of the interim period, so yeah, there will be a time where hopefully the traffic order will be implemented and the signage will go in, but there's likely to be a period where there won't be the traffic camera enforcement. We have sort of liaised with the police on this. It's unlike, they don't have necessarily an objection to that, but they are probably unlikely to have the resources necessarily to police it. So potentially another option could be sort of parking attendants, because sort of during the new closure times, there'll be a loading restriction. So potentially tickets could be given to loading during the times of the closures. So that is one potential enforcement measure which could be done. But yeah, it is acknowledged that it won't be able to be fully enforced until the cameras are in place.
Okay. Councillor Thomas, your other questions?
Thank you, Chair. The next one is, will the Court Street gate be closed every day, including Tuesday? Because at the moment, it's not closed on Tuesday, which is still a market day. I think that's due to the current traffic regulation order. But will it be closed on all market days, including Tuesdays? And another question is, to alleviate some concerns of traders, will more enforceable and dedicated unloading bays be provided for lorries to park and transfer their goods to stores? Because obviously the proposal is not to allow deliveries between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. But that don't appear to be enough unloading bays at the moment. Thank you.
So I think,
Okay.
at the moment for the Court Street closure, it's not proposed to close the gate on any different days than currently is allowed, to sort of keep the current arrangement for access for maintenance and emergency access and this type of thing. And in terms of loading, the current proposals are between 10 to 4. It will be closed to all vehicles except for the exemptions. So the idea is there wouldn't be any loading within those times. I mean, vehicles could come in before 10 o'clock, have some time in the zone before unloading. But any vehicles sort of coming into the zone after 10 o'clock would then be picked up by the ANPR system.
Can I come back in there, Chair?
Briefly, yeah.
It was just really to ask, will there be loading bays provided? Because during 10 and 4, traders are probably still going to need to take deliveries and decant them from the vehicles into the town centre. But will there be some dedicated loading bays outside of the pedestrian area that these lorries can actually use?
It's not currently something which is in the scheme at the moment.
And I think this harks back, Councillor Thomas, to my comments earlier. Out of the formal consultation, those specifically affected will be obviously describing what their needs are and where the issues lie. And of course, the scheme will have to address all those sorts of issues.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to go to paragraph 3.4, which does say the gates will be closed on market days, unless I've misread that.
Yeah, that the intention for that was that the gate was sort of closed the same days as it is currently for the market days.
Faversham has a market on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think that's because of the sort of current traffic order. It doesn't allow the full closure on Tuesday. I think that's why the gate isn't closed on that day.
But will the new traffic order change that?
Yeah, it's not currently something that's proposed to be included. No.
Okay, just to make it known to officers then. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Simmons, your question?
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, yeah. I suppose I ought to own up straight away and say that actually the market does close the gate on Tuesdays but doesn't lock it, so that people can come in and out. And so we're obviously not following the traffic rules, but actually nobody has complained about it, so I shouldn't really have said anything and just carried on. But there we are. I've owned up to that. I am concerned about a lack of physical barrier. Automatic number plate recognition is absolutely fine and wonderful, but in a pedestrianised area, I'm concerned. It's some time since a Christmas market in Berlin was attacked by a suicide or by a reckless driver. And there's been cases, I think it was Westminster Bridge in London, and I'm concerned that there isn't going to be a physical barrier at the start and of the pedestrianised area. Is it the intention that the cafes will put their tables out in the road on the days when the road is closed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. I will bring John East in, but my comment on that I'm aware of is because you will still have accessibility for blue badge holders, is that it's unlikely that would be able to happen. But John can tell me if I'm wrong.
I mean, the physical closure was one of the options that we on sort of Court Street was one of the options we looked at during the initial sifting. That it was sort of discounted effectively due to the potential need for emergency access for routine maintenance activities, and then also potential residential access as well. So it was, yeah, kind of discounted on not not being feasible for those reasons.
Councillor Simmons, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Saunders.
Okay, so thank you. I'm pleased to see that plans for pedestrianisation are moving forward. Certainly residents in my ward are strongly supportive of it in my experience. I am concerned that there's a process of review after, assuming this goes through consultation and once it's implemented. I particularly in relation to the marketplace area, I appreciate that the consultants been very concerned to enable disabled access and to allow blue badge holders to continue to access the town centre, and that they changed the 2B recommendation accordingly. But I think it will be important to look at how that works in the Court Street marketplace area, and to look at what the impact of continuing to allow vehicles to enter this area is on the aged and on people with disabilities who either can't or choose not to access the marketplace by vehicle. So I'd like to be assured about that. I think part of that review would also need to look at whether in reality full pedestrianisation would prevent blue badge holders accessing essential services. Since we had the consultation, Faversham's lost its last 3 banks, and the proposal as it is at the moment still allows blue badge holders to use the marketplace as a shortcut through to Preston Street. So I do have concerns there. And I think Councillor Thomas mentioned it. I think it will be important to be ensuring that pedestrians have priority in that marketplace area, and that ways need to be found to ensure that cyclists, e-bikers, scooter users do actually dismount. I get quite a lot of feedback from residents concerned about cycling on pavements and in alleyways, and the whole idea of the 20-mile-an-hour scheme, which the board did unanimously support, was to encourage cyclists to use the road, and I think that will work well in Preston Street, but I do have concerns that it needs to be managed quite effectively in line with the highway code in the marketplace area. So I'm supportive of the recommendations, but I have got those 2 concerns. Be interested to get feedback on that from you.
Okay, thank you. If I can bring in either Emma or John East on that.
Well, John will probably have comments, but Councillor Saunders, just to say that we hear your concerns and the issues that you've raised, and I think we'd want to look at that, as you say, the whole process for this consultation and looking should it be agreed to implement. I think is a start, and it will get us to that point where we can then look at what works and what doesn't, and things can be tweaked. So absolutely take your points, Councillor Saunders, and we'll move forward on with that regard. But John may well have other comments. Thank you.
I think just on the blue badge access, I mean, this was something which really progressed through the equality impact assessment, and the original proposal was looking at not providing blue badge exemption in Court Street and Marketplace, but when that equality impact assessment was run, then we had the sort of negative impact on disabled users, and it was felt we couldn't really be promoting a scheme that would have that impact, and then especially given the sort of informal consultation that was done probably about almost 18 months ago now, where disabled access into the town centre was one of the key issues. It was felt that we did need to include this to take the scheme forward. So just a bit of background on that.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Anthony Hook. I have next.
Thank you very much.
Just a reminder, when we're going through the question stage, and then I will propose this, and hopefully there'll be a seconder, and then we'll enter a vote on it. So, Councillor Hook.
very much, Chair. Chair, I support it going to the further consultation. I'm certain that there are many people in Faversham and visitors who will enjoy the effects of pedestrianisation. Overall, I am pleased, because very often these things involve balancing competing interests. And in relation to the blue badge holders, I do think it's the right thing to plan on allowing them through. When we had the road closures before, local councillors were contacted by some blue badge holders who were very distressed by not being able to get to opticians, dentists, and so on. I take Councillor Saunders' point that things change, and it might be at some future point that the policy on blue badge holders might want to be reviewed as things change. I also think the ANPR cameras are a good solution. I also take David Simmons' points about risks, and that's a real point that needs to be considered seriously. There was also an issue though, when we had the road closures for about an ambulance getting access, which was delayed, and there was a lot of concern about that. And the beauty of the ANPR cameras is that emergency vehicles won't be impeded. So I think that's something we should keep under review and monitor. I have had feedback from some of the Preston Street businesses that some of them, particularly those involving catering, do remain concerned about deliveries middays, both ingoing and outgoing. It may be that that's something to be further considered in the consultation. I mean, some shops won't need midday deliveries, but if they've got perishable goods, there might be a case to be made, and perhaps there could be an allowance in the scheme that certain types of businesses could have one midday delivery a week, or a couple of weeks, something like that, to be considered in the consultation. Those who are affected will be best placed to make their case about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Lehman.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on the question that Councillor Thomas asked, and then Councillor Simmons did kind of give a half answer by saying that the gate is closed on Tuesdays, but not locked. The option 2B at the moment says on market days, and then lists market days as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, which I feel is a little bit ambiguous with regard to Tuesdays. Are we going to be able to amend that option to explicitly include or exclude Tuesdays?
Sorry, yes, I'm unmuted. Emma, I think it should reflect what we've actually got, shouldn't it? Yeah. So the market day on a Tuesday, where the gate's technically not shut, but we know it is a market, obviously, and then the other days when we're in there. So I'm happy for that to be included.
And I think through the consultation we can clarify that as well, Councillor Lehman, because we have that opportunity. And thank you for Councillor Simmons for being honest.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay. So thank you all. What I'd like to say as well is it felt like an eternity ago that we did the informal consultation, but I think people think we don't listen and no notice is taken. But the traders put in, the members of the public put in, residents put in, and from that a number of silos of work you can see have been undertaken in this report. John East and his colleagues have worked hard to sift through a number of options, and I think it just shows that with the community all looking together at what the issues are, you can, what is quite a complicated situation, can bring together a result that hopefully will address the significant issues here. So I'm going to move this item I'm going to propose this item. Is there a seconder for it? Got lots of hands. I don't know if that's a seconder or not.
I'll second, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Lovely. Okay, right. Shall we go to the vote, or does anyone want to discuss it any further? No, we'll go to the vote then. Do I have to do a roll call, Kelly?
It might be easier to do a roll call. Yes, I did send
Alright.
you a voting form.
Yeah, I've got that.
Yep,
I'll
great.
read out the names, and if after I've announced your name, if you could just say whether you're for, against, or abstaining, that would be lovely, so we know which way we're going. Do we have Councillor Baldock here?
No.
Oh, fine. Okay. Cameron Burt.
Or
Thank you. Councillor Booth. Oh, that sounded like a squeaky dog toy.
Sorry, that's my supporters. Sorry, I'll go back on mute.
Is Councillor Booth here?
Can't see him on the list.
He's not in attendance, no.
Okay. Councillor Dendor, I can hear you.
Yes, 4.
Okay. Councillor Hook.
4, all of us. Thank you.
Councillor Lehman.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Wright's not here, we know that. Councillor Bonney, 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Paul Stephen.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
4.
Thank you. John Fassenfelt from Calc.
Yes, Chairman. I won't take offence from the fact that you failed to mention that some councillors from parishes are in attendance, and I'm very much. That's no problem at all. I'm very much in favour of this scheme in Paversham.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have announced you.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
Peter's not here. Councillor Tutt.
Yes, you should have done, Monique, but never mind.
Oh,
4.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
You're 4. Lovely. Oh, I think that was unanimous. Do you have that down, Kelly, as unanimous?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Yes, it is, Chair. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Right. Okay. So that is item 5. Let me go on to item 6. So this is formal objections to traffic order regulations, Swale Amendment 39, 2022. So if I'd like to ask the officer to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's Mike Knowles, Seafront and Engineering Manager from Swale. No changes to the report, but I will just go through the recommendations if that is useful. So the first one was for proposed double yellow lines in Monk's Close in Faversham, and the recommendation, due to the high number of formal objections received, is to abandon those proposals. For recommendation number 2, which was proposed double yellow lines in Recreation Way, Kemsley, the proposal there is to remove the proposals from the current traffic regulation order and to undertake an informal consultation with residents based on the feedback we've received, and that's been agreed with the county member that's supporting the scheme. The third recommendation for the proposed double yellow lines in Bramley Avenue, Faversham, I've put a proposal in there to either progress or abandon based on the discussions this evening. We received 4 formal objections, 2 formal indications of support, 2 indications of support and 4 comments. So there's a recommendation either or on that one. And finally, for recommendation 4, this is in relation to the formalising of a disabled person's parking bay in Jubilee Crescent in Queenborough, and the recommendation there is to abandon that, so remove it from the traffic regulation order and to ask the blue badge holder currently using the bay to make a formal application for a bay to be placed outside of their property. I hope that helps. Obviously happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I think what we do, because there's recommendation 3 is an either or. I think if we go through the first and second item, take them each one at a time, and then we'll take number 3, where we'll make a decision on the either or. So if we'll start off with recommendation 1, which is the yellow lines in Monk's Close, Faversham, to be abandoned. Councillor Hook, you have your hand up. Would you like to speak to that particular recommendation?
Oh, sorry, it's an old hand, Chair.
That's all right. Okay. Councillor Dendor, is that a new hand or an old hand?
That's a new hand, but it's for item 2. I have no comment on the Monk's Close.
Okay. Does anyone, hands up if you have a comment on recommendation 1? Councillor Saunders.
Yeah, as the ward councillor, I'd propose that we do abandon this. There was a lot of opposition from residents to it.
Okay, fine. I will second that as you're proposing that. If we take a vote on that one, do I need to do a roll call again, Kelly?
I think it would be clearer if you do it via roll
Okay.
call. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Burt. Okay. I think we agreed Councillor Booth wasn't here. Councillor Dendor.
4.
Okay. Councillor Hook.
4.
Councillor Lehman.
4.
Councillor Wright. Oh no, he's not here. Me. 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Councillor Saunders.
4.
Oh, you've already proposed it. Okay. Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Stephen.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
At 4.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
4.
Councillor Tutt.
4.
Lovely. Okay, that's unanimous. Right. A recommendation 2, which is Recreation Way, Kemsley. Who would like to speak to that? Is that Councillor Dendor, you?
Yes, that's me. Thank you.
Yep.
As the county member on that area. Yes, it's just to make clear that this isn't an abandonment. It's simply a withdrawal for the moment. A couple of the objections have said the traffic will then be dispersed to their side of the road. So on looking at it, we are going to propose 3 sets of double yellows. It's a 90-degree bend with a roundabout in the middle, but give time for informal and possibly formal consultation for all 3 in one go. So we thought it wasn't really appropriate to let just the one go forward at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, agree. Right. So are you going to recommend that one, and I'll second it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. So we'll take a vote, unless there's anyone who's dying to speak. That Councillor Saunders, I take that's a legacy hand.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry.
That's all right. Right, let's go quick roll call. Councillor Bett.
4.
Councillor Dendor.
4.
Councillor Hook. Councillor Hook. We'll come back to you. Councillor Lehman.
4.
Right, it's not here. Me. 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Councillor Saunders.
4.
Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Stephen.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
4.
Councillor Tutt. No. Councillor Tutt.
4.
Okay, lovely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Right. Okay. So we've done 1 and 2. Right. Recommendation 3. Who would like to speak to recommendation 3? Councillor Eddie Thomas, come in.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I wanted to propose, or I do want to propose that we do progress with this. Can I just give a little bit more background, Chair?
Of course. Speak.
I'm the ward member that requested this, or it was brought to my attention by a local resident. Their concern was the potential for a head-on collision going around the corner there, and was saying, can we have double yellow lines along the whole strip? But looking at it myself on the ground, and also speaking to Mr. Knowles, it seemed to be contrary to what we wanted to achieve by putting W lines the whole way down, in the sense we would encourage traffic to travel faster. So from the perspective of road safety and from the perspective of making the 20-mile-an-hour scheme more self-enforcing in this vicinity, just putting in a passing point seemed to tackle both concerns, i.e. there's a passing point that this proposal puts forward that would minimise any likelihoods of any head-on collisions, but also would still maintain some on-street parking, which would help the self-enforcement nature of the 20-mile-an-hour scheme in the area. And reading through a number of the comments that came through, that seemed to be what people wanted, was more safety and more enforcement. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mike Knowles, would you like to speak to anything from a technical point of view on either a progressing or abandoning, and Councillor Thomas's comments there?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think just to reinforce Councillor Thomas's discussion, then we did have some considerable debate around the most appropriate option here, and felt that rather than placing double yellow lines all the way around that corner, by putting a section in the middle of two sections of parked vehicles, it allowed a space for vehicles to pull in to allow passing, whilst also maintaining some physical traffic calming in the form of vehicles parking there. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Anyone else wish to ask or speak on that one? Councillor Lehman.
I just wanted to say that I'd be happy to second Councillor Thomas's proposal to progress with this.
Okay, fine. Okay, right. Let's take a vote then. I will do the roll call. So get ready to unmute even. Councillor Burt, this is for progressing on Bramley Avenue, Faversham on recommendation 3. Okay, thank you. Councillor Dendor.
4.
Councillor Hook. He's disappeared. Councillor Lehman.
4.
Councillor Bonney, 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Councillor Saunders.
4.
Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Stephen.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Fessenfeld.
4.
Councillor Tutt.
4.
Thank you. Okay, and the final one, the proposed formalising of the disabled persons parking outside of 18 Jubilee Crescent, and this is to be abandoned, and the blue badge holder currently using the bay to apply for a bay outside their property. Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Bear, please speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will be supporting this. It doesn't mention it in the report because I don't know if they got it in time, but I believe Queenborough Town Council also support this proposal. I suppose I should declare an interest. I was present when they debated it as a town councillor, but I wasn't part of the discussion. So just one extra, if I could ask Mr. Knowles, just for clarification, is Power Station Road included in Amendment 39, just as an aside?
Oh, that's a very good question, and one. Let me just. I'll have to pull the traffic order up, but I can answer that shortly. But if you wish to carry on, I'm more than happy to come back on that in a couple of moments. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we will vote. So if I propose recommendation 4, and Councillor Baird, are you seconding that?
I'm happy to second.
Lovely. Okay, we'll take the vote on that, and then Mike can look up the detail for us. So I'm going to do the roll call. Get ready to unmute. So Councillor Baird.
4.
Councillor Dendor.
4.
Councillor Hook. Councillor Lehman.
4.
Councillor Bonney. 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Councillor Saunders.
4.
Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Paul Stephen.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
4.
Councillor Tuck.
4.
Lovely. Unanimous. Thank you. Right, did you manage to rummage and find an answer?
Thank you, Chair. I have indeed. I'm happy to confirm that Power Station Road is in the that Traffic Regulation Order Amendment 39, and we didn't receive any formal objections, so there was no need to put an inclusion in the report. Thank you.
Lovely. Good.
Thank you, Mike.
Right. Well, that was a whistle-stop tour through. I'm just trying to find the right page now. Right, we are going to now move on to item 7, informal consultation results, Tanners Street and Forbes Road, Faversham. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Page
yes.
153, just to all the members, so you're on the right page. Is that right? Oh, no, it's not. It's not. I've given you duff information. What page are we on, Mike?
I have
133.
133. Yeah.
Yes, 133. Sorry, I'll stop shuffling papers. Right, 133. Right, over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thankfully, just 2 recommendations in this report. As a result of some informal consultations which have taken place with residents in Faversham, we have 2 proposals there. I'm hoping they're fairly straightforward, although the first one again is an either or, but I would just confirm that we had 4 indications of support, 1 objection and 2 comments, so that there is more support than objection to the proposals. But again, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Saunders, you have your hand
Yeah,
up. Please.
I'd be happy to propose the Tanner Street recommend that it goes ahead. It came from residents. It's got majority support from residents, and it maintains the volume of parking on the street and should resolve the waste collection problem of the vehicle not being able to get up the road. So I would propose it.
That sounds sensible. Okay, so you're going to propose it. I'll second it. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on recommendation 1? No? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. So get ready to unmute. So Councillor Burt?
4.
Councillor Dendor? He's gone to have his dinner, has he? Councillor Hook? Councillor Lehman?
4.
Councillor Bonney, 4. Councillor Gould?
4.
Councillor Jays?
4.
Councillor Saunders?
4.
Councillor Simmons?
4.
Councillor Stephen?
4.
Councillor Thomas?
4.
Councillor Fassenfeld?
4.
And Councillor Tuck?
4.
Lovely.
And Councillor Dendor, 4.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. That's great. That's okay. Recommendation 2, which is for the residents' parking bays. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on that? Councillor Thomas, please speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I am hoping that this will eventually come back to the JTB at a future date. The initial consultation raised some concerns which needed to be dealt with. The overall proposal will ultimately aim to again create a self-enforcing nature of 20 miles an hour along Forbes Road, as it is currently within the new 20 mile an hour limit. And as some people might realise, it's downhill and has not got any form of traffic coming at all along that road. I think the balance we're trying to get is, again, road safety, self-enforcement, and providing some more residents' parking bays, because some of the surrounding streets are all terraces, and the demand with people wanting to have cars, which they didn't have in the past. I would also completely lost it for a minute there. I'd also like to mention to members here this evening that the Forbes Road zebra crossing is due to be upgraded, I think, sometime next year. So that will also might bear some consideration when it comes back to the JTB. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Councillor Simmons.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have a degree of sympathy with this proposal because of the requirement for additional residence parking bays. But I'm very concerned. I mean, Forbes Road is a busy road. There's a lot of traffic, and it's uphill as well as downhill. And there's a lot of traffic uses that road. So what I'm concerned about is two things. One is the impact on air quality with cars stopping and starting, and also on the impact on pushing traffic onto other roads, principally Athelston Road, because it's not unusual for the queue of traffic to get out onto the A2 at the top of the Mall, to stretch back to the corner of Forbes Road. If you're looking at the map, say past number 40 or 35 on that side, there's quite often a queue of vehicles waiting to go up the Mall there, and I just think this is going to make it worse, and I'm concerned about it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other members who wish to speak on this? I can't see any more raised hands. Yes, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. I think I would support Councillor Thomas on this, that further investigation would be good. I think in relation to Councillor Simmons' point, I think there is a problem with queuing traffic at some times of the day, but I noticed KCC feel that it is possible for vehicles to get past each other. There is sufficient width there, and I think it introducing parking there would have positive impacts in terms of slowing traffic, which certainly out of the rush hour sometimes isn't compliant with the speed limit, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Okay. Right. Okay. So on item 2, we'll go with the recommendation. I will propose it if there's a seconder. That's Councillor Thomas. Thank you. And is there any debate anyone wishes to have on this, or do we want to just go to the vote? Let's go to the vote then. Right, Councillor Baird.
4.
Councillor Dendall.
4.
Councillor Hook.
4.
Councillor Lehman.
4.
Councillor Bonney, 4. Councillor Gould.
4.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Councillor Saunders.
4.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Stephen.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
4.
Councillor Tuck.
4.
Okay, lovely. All bar one. Thank you, members. So we're on to agenda item 8, which is quiet lanes. So if I can ask the officer to, it's Tim. I think it's Tim Reid. Is that right? Is it Tim?
It's Jamie Watson.
Oh,
KCC.
Jamie. Sorry, apologies.
No, that's
Jamie.
okay. No, the report was by head of service Tim, but I wrote it. So Jamie Watson, KCC Active Travel Manager. This is an information report, but KCC has been receiving quite a few requests for quiet lanes, and this report was requested specifically by Swale Borough Council. KCC doesn't have a policy on the introduction of quiet lanes, but does have a historical report on where these have been implemented, and most recent reporting has been back in 2003 on a 40-kilometre route of quiet lanes introduced in the Tunbridge and Malling area. The report highlights there's some background reading for that at on the appendices. This information report provides an update on a previous JTB report provided on the 7th of December 2015. The important to know that any new quiet lane needs a comprehensive public consultation and, importantly, local buy-in, with existing traffic volumes and speeds needing to be low. They should not rely on police enforcement, and KCC doesn't have a specific funding pot or budget to promote and implement them. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members, those that wish to raise anything, any points or have any questions. So I have Councillor Simmons first with a hand up.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Jamie, for the report. It was I that requested the information item on quiet lanes, and Mr. Watson will be familiar with Porter's Lane, which is in my ward, and I think it would be an ideal candidate to become a quiet lane. Are you saying that it's better if this is done by a parish council, so that they can lead the consultation and the public meeting and everything else? And the other thing is that I see in the report you talk about a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, which seems to be quite high to me. I would have thought that a quiet lane for walking and cycling ought to be 20 miles an hour. Thank you.
Yes, I had the same question myself. So,
Hey, Chair, thank you.
yes, Jamie, please.
Well, the local guidance, and specifically, this isn't sort of a precise science, but certainly Sustrans are particularly doing a lot of work on quiet lanes now and wanting to promote some. The environment needs to be right for this. It is a road that needs to be understood by all road users. So it's quite limiting really on which roads you can use. So the 40 mile per hour is guidance on rural roads. And I would agree with you that that's sort of a maximum speed. It needs to be as low as possible, and the nature, and it needs to be really small or low volumes of traffic. So anything that's a rat run where they're speeding, really need to think quite carefully if a quiet lane is appropriate. Your question about who leads on it, you can put it in your parish HIPs. It's not, I can't tell you whether it's going to be supported by KCC. It needs to have a discussion for each lane. But importantly, as the report said, it's the local buy-in. If locals feel it's appropriate, it's people understand what a quiet lane is, the signing needs to be sensible, and for a rural environment, it doesn't want to be too in everyone's faces. So it's quite difficult to actually sign well a quiet lane that people understood, and it does need regular sort of communication about why it's there and what it's meant to be doing. I hope that's helping, but it doesn't. I can't tell you whether Porter's Lane specifically would be a good lane for a quiet lane, I'm afraid, without further investigation.
Could I just come back quickly, Chair?
Small, yes.
Yes,
go on.
very small, because I noticed a lot of people want to speak about this.
They do.
You said about a rat run not being suitable, Jamie. You know from conversations we've had that many rural lanes are rat runs, and in particular one I mentioned, which is connects the A251 with Brogdow Road. It is an almighty rat run, and people drive far too fast down it. So I find your idea that a rat run isn't suitable for a quiet lane being a difficult thing to understand.
Perhaps, Chair, I could come back on that. I think each road needs to be assessed in its own right, and the rat run comment I was thinking about is the speeds are high. How do you actually try and make a rural lane? And this is the difficulty for quiet lanes. How do you make a rural lane compliant with low speeds that people understand. So just putting a sign saying it's a quiet lane may not do what you hope it to do. So it's just really the understanding what the expectation is of a quiet lane. And I think that's quite a difficult one to sort of understand. Where we put them in before, it hasn't been a great success. So we're still learning, and there may be new ways, and us KCC and the parishes working with Sustrans to see where they have been implemented well throughout the country. Maybe we can learn some lessons from others.
Okay, lovely. Okay, I had, hold on. I've got next I have Jeff Tutt, and then I have John Fattenfeld, and then there's several others after that.
Thank you, Chair. This was something that came up in Dunkirk about 5-6 years ago, and we did approach KCC about this and found it very difficult because there was no conversation about what we could and couldn't do. So it was very, very difficult to work out whether or not we could do anything. That the sort of vibe came back, basically, that there wasn't a lot of interest in doing it. So it's nice to see this come forward and gives us some clarification about what we need to look at, and something we can take back to residents and actually say, well, if you'd like still to go ahead with a rural lane, we can progress it in this way. So that's a starting point at least. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Fattenfeld.
Thank you, Chair. If you want to come and look at a quiet lane that works extremely well, come to Borden, Munsborough Lane. It has been in for a good many years. It's only about 3 kilometres long, and it works extremely well. I would agree with other colleagues where they're saying that the speed needs to be looked at very closely. It's a 20 mile an hour in a rural area, and by and large, people keep to it. People keep to it because of the characteristics of the road. It's such you can't do much more than 20 mile an hour safely down it. So it's important. I'm going along with what I said earlier. It's important to look at each road in its context. The point I would make, and is that you have to be very careful with signing. I think we need more signing, but we need more sensitive signing, if that makes sense. But somehow we have to educate people in whatever area, rural, urban areas, that occasionally you just have to drive slower because of the conditions of the road. So very much in favour of it. Anybody wants to come and look at it, come to Borden. Thank you, Jeff.
Lovely, thank you for that. Oh, she'll definitely do that. Councillor Gould.
Thank you. I was just wondering whether one of the sort of reasons for a quiet lane would be about linking bridle paths, because quite a lot of the time the bridle paths are disjointed across the countryside, and actually to have it's highlighted that actually there's a link between, say, a village centre and a bridle path that may start in the middle of really effectively nowhere and then go to nowhere, would be a good use of these quiet lanes. And whether that, I was thinking particularly of, say, Dawes Road in Dunkirk would be one, which links up to the bridle path at the top of the hill. And whether there seems to be sort of there should be an expectation of a speed limit, but presumably there has to be a speed limit actually applied, because a lot of these rural lanes, effectively the speed limit is 60 because it's national speed limit applies. So you presumably do have to sign that as a speed limit, certainly taking on board the fact that in many cases the national speed limit is completely unsafe, but it doesn't necessarily stop people aspiring to it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think they're two really interesting points. Do you want to pick those up, Jamie?
It's a can do. The key is low speeds, existing low speeds, not signs to say 40 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour. It's a road that needs to be compliant. So the example in Borden where speeds are already low is probably a great example of what's required. And some of the rural roads, albeit national speed limit, can be driven quite fast. So that's the bit I'm just sort of suggesting the investigation and thinking. You don't want to be putting, I guess, you don't want to be putting traffic calming along these rural roads and lots of signs and lines and build outs. So we need to be sensitive to the environment, and where the existing environment allows low speeds, suggests low speeds, suggests people might be walking in the road, ramblers or whatever, then it stands a chance. If that's not the environment, that's the bit I just suggest we need to think about how we can either change the environment or it's not suitable as a quiet lane. And joining up, why would people be walking along in the middle of the road, or horses or whatever? If drivers understand there might be that activity taking place, well then great, that's what the quiet lane purpose is about. So that seems to make sense if it links bridleways to villages or other areas.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Saunders, then I've got Councillor Dendor followed by Councillor Burt.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It does strike me that there are quite a lot of rural lanes in rural parts of Swale which would function well as quiet lanes, because they're not actually operating as through routes for motorists. I was interested, Councillor Simmons mentions Porter's Lane. Vicarage Lane, right next to it, strikes me as a road or a lane that's used far more by walkers, cyclists and people on horses than it actually is by car users. And these particularly quiet lanes could be made, I would have thought, more quiet by limiting driving to only people who needed access to houses or property on some of these lanes. And of course the other option would be to close them off at points in the lane, which would still allow access but wouldn't allow through driving. And I'm wondering, Jamie, what your views are about those kind of initiatives.
Chair, I'm able to come back. Yes, that's
yes, that's fine. Please come back.
Those sorts of initiatives, I'm sure, would be helpful in reducing speeds and certainly reducing sort of through traffic. Trying to do something, try to force drivers by signs doesn't prove very successful. So limiting to residents only or something like that, if people can get through, they will get through, and that's been experienced with all sorts of temporary road closures which have failed. But I do think the trying to reduce the amount of traffic using the rural road in favour of other forms of traffic, active travel, cycling, walking, horse riding, does need some measure to try and remove or reduce the dominance of a vehicle.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Dendor?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, a nice lead-in for what I was going to say, actually, there. The licensing of, recently in the last few weeks or months, I've driven over the North Downs many, many times and have been diverted onto quiet rural lanes, going across through Hollingbourne and so on, and being diverted Milstead or the other way down to Harwich. These are quiet rural lanes, but when the main road is blocked, you have no choice. And that's been more and more and more in the last few months. So I wonder, when KCC are planning their licenses for the various utilities to dig up the roads, they need diversions to push the traffic round. And I'm wondering just how many of the roads are on that those diversion routes. And therefore, a lot of the roads wouldn't qualify. I totally agree in principle with what's being proposed, but I just wonder how many would actually qualify, considering the need for diversions. And I do agree with Jamie, absolutely, and have quite a bit of experience of it. If you try and restrict access to certain houses along a road that's actually a through road, they will come through They'll soon learn that they can get through, and they will come through. And maybe Jamie can comment, but I don't think there's any way legally you can stop them going through. Thanks.
Okay, Jamie, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, if you prohibit driving, then there's a traffic regulation order that needs to be consulted on to prohibit whatever you want to prohibit. So certain types of vehicles. You've still got to think about refuse vehicles or other types of vehicles that service the properties. So that's another difficulty where turning heads may be required rather than just closing off roads halfway or at a certain location. And the diversion's always a tricky one. If we've experienced where we've closed off a main road, we then divert onto main roads, which, you know, like for like, which can be huge diversions, but we know everyone will try and do the shortcut through all of the rural lanes. So there's always going to be that. And we have literally hundreds and thousands of requests to open up the highway for whatever reason, excavation of utilities, our own maintenance work, and that's only going to be more and more every year. So it is really tricky to try and deal with the number of requests and have suitable diversion routes.
Lovely, noted. Okay, Councillor Bett.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I completely agree with Jamie's last comment there. We recently had a road closure on the island where we thought all the local traffic would use a quiet lane, or it's not a quiet lane, but a lane that's considered quiet. We put road closure signs at both ends and people ignored them and carried on through anyway. My point was picked up by Councillor Fassenfeld regarding Munscore Lane, and it kind of goes on to Councillor Gould's point. I stand to be corrected, but I don't think Munscore Lane did have a speed restriction. I think it just says quiet lane. I don't think there was any traffic regulation to slow the speed down. And that's why it works well, because it is a road that is already got slower speeds. The crux of this, I think, is at 2.6 in the report, and it's about not relying on enforcement because 20-mile-an-hour speed limits should be self-enforcing. 95% of the roads in my borough ward are currently 20 mile an hour, and they are, because there's no enforcement, that it does absolutely nothing.
Okay. Jamie, is there anything you wish to comment on?
Other than, yeah, at 20 mile per hour, if trying to make 20 mile per hour compliant is tricky, specifically in rural lanes where the environment isn't sort of conducive to 20 or doesn't naturally make drivers drive at 20. So putting signs up may make a 1 or 2 mile an hour difference, but it doesn't really bring the speeds hugely down. But we have got quiet lanes. Some have worked okay. I'm not aware of, well, I am now, of the Borden one where it's working really well. And it seems that's working well, as it said, is because you can't drive quicker than 20 miles an hour or less. So those are the ones that probably jump out at me that stand a chance of being successful. And as I said in the report, a lot of these lanes would need continuous campaigns to tell drivers what they should expect from these lanes, rather than just putting signs up saying quiet lanes and drivers not actually know what it means. So it is quite an expensive, time-consuming change of environment and change of habit.
Okay, I know your comments. I think what's really difficult is, I know I represent a rural area, is that actually you can't get any enforcement of speed limits because there's nowhere safe to stand. So because of the limitations of it being a narrow rural lane. So it's a bit of a circular argument. I've got 2 more speakers. I'll take them. I've got Councillor Fassenfeld and then Councillor Gould, and then we'll wrap it up.
Just very
Councillor
quickly.
Fassenfeld? Yeah.
Very quickly, Chair. My understanding to Councillor Burt's comment is that there is a 20 mile an hour traffic regulation order. But having said that, I agree with what Jamie says. The conditions down there is that really it should be a 10 mile an hour traffic order. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Councillor Gould?
Just coming back on the point about informing drivers, I mean, I would have thought a, 30-mile-an-hour limit at the beginning of a quiet lane does provide that sort of information to the drivers, so that actually, that would inform that actually that they should keep the speed down, that having to, and the quiet lane explains the reason. It's outside the maybe built up area, but keep your speed down because this is a quiet lane, and therefore I would have thought that the putting that restriction on there helps shift the expectation of what should be happening on that road. And as you say, not everyone will understand what a quiet lane means, but putting a 30-mile-an-hour limit on there would help improve that understanding.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you. I mean, I suppose the feeling I'm getting from the board here is that there is an appetite for rural lanes in our areas. I think what we're being told is they need to be carefully picked. So I think there's a piece of work to do to identify them, and obviously it requires funding, which isn't freely available at the moment. But I'd like to say thank you to the officer for the report there. And members, do we note this report?
Noted.
Noted.
Agreed.
Noted. Yeah. Agreed.
Fabulous. Right. Thank you very much. Item 9, Highways Work Programme. So if I can ask the officer to introduce the report.
Chairman, Chair, my apologies.
Alan, you sound very quiet.
So, can you hear me better now?
Oh, that's better.
That
yes.
better. Good. That's a good sign. Good sign.
Like we were a long way down a tunnel.
Thank you, Chair. There's obviously an item here that's only for noting. So I would hope that if members do have questions, they might have taken them up with the officers that are named in the report. If I could just clarify one thing on the report that you just mentioned a second ago, just by as an additional comment, if you like, it is there was a 20-mile-an-hour limit on Munscore. It is 20 mile an hour for most of it. The first 50 metres or so as you come off of Ode Street was deliberately set up with that buffer that's just been mentioned. So there is a buffer of about 50 metres or so that's 30 miles an hour before you get into the quiet lane sign and the 20 mile an hour. And then there are repeater signs that are spread through the full length of it. It's in terms of picking a road for a quiet lane, you wouldn't really pick a better one, to be honest. It's full of equestrian features of one sort or another. There's quite a few hikers use it, and it is quite difficult to negotiate it at speed. You'd have to go fairly slowly, pretty much close to the 20 that's there. And in answer to the question about funding, it was it was member funded. So the change was put in, I think, about 2015, 2016, and it was member funded that made it happen. So just a bit of background, but in answer to the question, agenda item 9, there's nothing to add to the report as far as I know. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Councillor Dendy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of comments on the works. One is on the roundabout at the McDonald's along Sheppey Way. I'm pleased to see that's going ahead. I'm also pleased to see it's not linked to any development, which I didn't realise, so it's going ahead anyway. That is a very big danger point, as I think everybody knows. They're coming out of McDonald's onto Sheppey Way. So that's great to see that on there, and looks like it's planned for summer. The other one, which Alan I think already knows I'm going to ask about probably, is the Puffing Crossing. It's SW/003084 on Eurolink Way. I've consistently asked Highways every few months about this, and I'm told it'll be the next 3 months, then it'll be the next 3 months, and then it'll be the next 3 months, and it still isn't there. And I just wonder, maybe not for now, but I'm just wondering when. I know it's to be built through Redrow, but I'm just wondering when it's ever going to be done. Thank you.
Okay. Alan, Any
thank you.
ideas?
Thank you, Chair. No, I can't give you a date on that. I know it's been, as Councillor Dender's just mentioned there, I know it's been shifted on and on to different dates, but no, I don't have a date, but I will try and speak to somebody in the developments team and try and get some sort of background as to hopefully when it might go in.
And is that developer dependent then on them progressing works, or is this?
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, the Eurolink Way one is a Redrow developer dependent, yeah.
Okay, lovely. Right, Councillor Tutt.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple. I'm delighted to see that Thornton Hill, which is in Dunkirk, is finally going to be coming on to have the sheet piling to stabilise the road. It has been falling apart for many years, so I appreciate that a lot. On page 162, there's one in Selling Road, which is the flooding underneath the railway bridge. That has flooded, to my knowledge, for the last 10 or 15 years. And every time it's fixed, it's done badly. Now, I don't know who was responsible for doing it, but we were told on the last occasion, I think, that they were pumping out with an 8-inch pipe and discharging through a 4-inch pipe. And of course, it slowed down and wouldn't go away. But whatever the situation is, please, please, please have it done properly. And just finally, I'd just like to talk about the street lighting. There's lots and lots of replacement LEDs being shown throughout the borough. And clearly, I guess they're all being paid for by KCC. And the rest of us, obviously, in the parishes, as you all know, I'll bring it up again, we do have this issue with the street lighting grant. And of course, we've had to pay for our own LEDs in numerous parishes throughout the borough. So I won't labour the point, but thank you for your time.
I note that comment, Jeff. Alan, you wish to respond to that?
I've noted the comment also about the street lighting, and I've also noted a comment to talk again with the drainage team about their work. The last time I spoke to them was probably about a month ago, and they said that the design work and the ground investigations was all still ongoing. But I'll try and get some sort of an update for Jeff as to when that might happen.
Thank you, Alan. I know you will. Appreciate it.
Okay, right, Councillor Burt.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mine is on the developer-funded works on Belgrave Road. There's serious concerns there with how the developer is progressing with that. I know there are KCC highways officers who share those concerns because there's been meetings held on site about the concerns regarding how they're progressing. I understand that the works now are due to be taken place in the February half term, but the contractor has taken that as a, well, we don't do any work till half term, which means the pavements that are left unfinished have just been left open. We're looking at another 2 months that they really need, even if it's just a temporary surface, they need to be forced into doing something because this has been dragging on now since before the summer.
And, sorry, who have you spoken to? Who have you spoken to, Councillor Baird? Has that been Justin Cook or Alan Millard?
No, it was Tia. Was they had a meeting on site in beginning of October. The works were supposed to take place in the October half term, and they've now been pushed back to the February half term.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean that part particularly. I was talking about trying to get the other works done rather than waiting till that time, the work to keep the footways safe.
I understood it was in hand because officers had met on site and asked them to look at it, but we're now obviously 2 months on and residents are still walking across bare pavement.
Okay, yep, noted, and I'll get something back to you.
Okay, thank you. Right, let's just have a look. Sorry, is that Councillor Dendor and Tutt? I think your hands are still up. I assume you've said what you need to say. Just wanted to ask, the works on 161 Snips Hill, Sittingbourne, the flood water management. Is this to do with land going onto Stones Farm Open Countryside Gap at all, Alan?
I would need to speak to the drainage team. As far as I know, it's purely the area near to the speed camera and the flooding that happens locally there.
Okay, right, okay. And what was the other one? No, I talked to you separately actually about Tong Road. Okay, right. That's all. Any other members wish to raise anything?
Yes, Chair. Sorry, just to come back on what you asked about Snips Hill. I'm in touch with the team, Alan, on Snips Hill in quite a lot of detail. And what it handles actually is all the flooding down in Coombs Drive and Lansdowne Road, down that area, together with Southern Water, of course. So it's KCC Drainage and Southern Water. I don't think it has an effect on Stones Farm, but I'll certainly double check. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so agenda item 9, Highways Programme. I take it we all note it. Do you all note it? Say yay if you do.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, good, lovely, thank you. Right, item 10, progress update report. So if the officer would like to introduce this.
There's nothing to introduce, Chair. It's purely an information item. Unless somebody has a particular case that they would like to make about one of the items on there, we can try and get some information requested.
Okay, hands up. Anyone who wishes to speak? Councillor Dendor, is that a legacy hand or a new one?
Legacy hand, sorry.
Okay. Right, I think that's resounding. Everyone's gone quiet. So do we all note that item 10?
Noted.
Noted.
Lovely. Item 11, for noting only, requests made by councillors and members of the Joint Transportation Board. So, yeah, we just got to note it. Do you all note it?
Noted.
Lovely. Okay, item, it says 17, but I think it actually means 12. Date of the next meeting will be on Monday, the 27th of February. A date for your diaries. Don't forget. Okay. Councillor Burt.
I think both me and Councillor Saunders put it up for the last item. Mine was simply a request on the request and response sheet that we get for requests made by councillors and members.
Yeah.
Can we have it say who's requested it, whether it be a parish council or a member, just so if, for example, if it's an item in our division and I know something about it, I can feed back to the parish council.
Noted. The officers take that on board, yes?
Noted, thanks, Chair.
Councillor Saunders?
Yeah, I actually raised the 5th item, and I'm slightly disappointed that this has just been shuffled off to be mentioned in the Highways Work Programme, because it's not really about individual schemes. It's about the process that goes on between KCC and developers in developing highway schemes and improvements. And maybe it's just me, but it does feel to me quite not very transparent how this happens sometimes. And because of the long period between planning approval and developments often happening, it's certainly, in my experience, been the case that things suddenly appear, and as a local council you don't really know much about it. And there's been a couple of things in Faversham which, if we'd known about them a bit earlier, I think as councillors and also as a town council, we could have been involved in a bit more of a dialogue to make sure that it was in line with the direction of travel within the local area. So I would would still be keen to have a presentation on how these processes work, because I don't think they're transparent, and we will soon have a whole number of new councillors, no doubt, who will be having the same problem. Thank you.
Okay, and I totally agree with that thought as well. So maybe Kelly, if we can stick that down as an agenda item for the next board meeting.
Noted. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Fassenfeld. Yes, thank you, Chair. I support entirely what you just said and Councillor Saunders has just said. I've in fact raised it as a future item for the February meeting. We've got a number of examples in Borden where greater cooperation between KCC Highways and the Parish Council will produce, I think, better results. With great respect to KCC Highways, they don't live there, we do. We know the problems, we know the various movements of pedestrians, drivers, horse riders, etc. So yes, I'm all for greater cooperation, earlier involvement. Thank you.
Great, and I think that's what this board is about, is if we can head off some of those things. So thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. It's really, I'm supporting what Councillor Saunders has said. Too often, local members don't get notification of developer-funded junction improvements unless we're really chasing them. And there's been a couple of instances, as Councillor Saunders mentioned, in Faversham, where junctions have come into play, but they really haven't supported neither KCC's desire nor the local area's desire for more active travel. And the so-called improved junction does not cater for the safe crossing by pedestrians of that new junction. It would really help if we understood the process and how we can input into that process. Thank you, Chair.
I totally agree. Right, lovely. Okay, so I think we've noted that and we'll raise that for the next board meeting. So going on to item 12, the next date is 27th February. Thank you all for attending, members and officers, and close this meeting at 7:02. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheers.